What's up, everyone? Blue here, Blue Bears Games. This week, a deck has come across that I needed to make. If you have watched my pack cracking videos, you will know that for about a month now, or actually, by the time you see this, it will have been about a week or two after I finished the box, but for a whole month, I opened up a Kamigawa Dynasty set booster box so I could get this guy, so I could make a customer requested deck of a Ninja Tribal deck. So, the budget was actually my normal $40 budget, so I could not use some of the higher priced ninjas, so I had to use Satoru Umezawa, and I'm going to show you what I did right now. So, let's start off with what Satoru, whatever you call him, Umezawa is. He is a human ninja. He is a black, a blue, and one of any. For a 2/4, the ability that he has is whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, you can look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and this ability triggers only once each turn. And then he also gives the ability to give each creature card, and it doesn't have to be a ninja, but each creature card that you have in your hand, a ninjutsu for a black, a blue, and 2. So non-ninjas can now get the ability. This deck is very basic and simple. Ninja Tribal with a couple of little, fun things thrown in there. I have a couple of little tips to show you on that. And other than that, it has some control aspects where you can counter spells, kill creatures, and then draw some cards. So his ability plays well into all that. So let me get started like I always do with the lands. And again, we're on a $40 budget, so the way that this works is that I try to get as much as I can in for the 40, and then I'll show you what I came up with. So, Exotic Orchard first, because black and blue are two of the more popular colors used. The only one after that would be green, as far as commander goes, so you're most likely going to be able to hit on one of them. Sunken Hollow, so it's an island swamp. It's fetchable by a real fetch land, but that costs money. So, we have what we have, and then if it gets upgraded later, this one will be fetchable. Dimir Aqueduct, Dimir Gilgate, Dismal Backwater, all that enter the battlefield taps, and then they all do something special or nothing at all. Kind of like the Dimir Gilgate, it's just a gate. Dismal Backwater gives you life. Dwar Isle Refuge, so it's an older version of a Dismal Backwater, and it gains you a life. Salt Marsh, Waterfront District allows you to sacrifice it to draw a card, and that's key here. There's a lot of stuff in here that's going to sacrifice to let you draw a card. Evolving Wilds is always, it's not a fetch, it's the poor man's fetch, but it'll at least go get you a land for mana fixing when you need it. Maestro's Theater, again, not a fetch, but it does do the same thing you need it to do. And I'm starting to use these as I get them. That's one thing that I have to keep reminding people. I'm limited to what I actually have. I don't go out and buy new cards just to throw in a deck. This I actually had. It's kind of a fetch, but not, so it comes into play. And then you sacrifice it, and you go search your library for a basic island, swamp, or mountain. The mountain part you ignore on this one. You just go get a swamp or a island, whichever one you need. Rogue's Passage, because Ninjutsu relies on unblocked creatures, so I don't have many of these left either, so I'm hoping that if I get a collection anytime soon, or somebody wants to be very generous and send me some, you'll send me some Rogue's Passages. And then the rest are islands, and I use the, what are these? The Adventures in the Forgotten Realms lands, because I thought that they were pretty neat, and swamps. And again, as I always tell everybody, if you want to know exactly how many of each I have in there, I'll have the deck list linked in the description below. Moving on, we're going to start talking about what are the weaker points for black and blue, which is the ramp section. Now, it's not green, it's not white, I don't have much that I can do, so the options that I could do on a budget I came up with. I do these a lot. Renegade Maps and Traveler's Amulets, they go and get a land. It's not mana ramp, it's mana fixing, but at least it thins your deck out of a bad draw later of a land. Ecologist Terrarium, so 2 to cast, and then when it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put in your hand. Again, another one of those put in your hand things. Mana fixing, not mana ramp, but it's what I have. And then the bonus to it is that it stays in play. And normally when things do that, they don't have anything they can do. So this one, at least, you can pay to tap it and sacrifice it. And you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Actually, I think it's on any creature. So if for some reason they have illusions that die when being targeted, it could be a removal or it could be a buff for one of your guys. Dimir Locket, again, I said earlier, most of the things in here are going to be able to sacrifice to draw a card or be able to help you draw cards, so this is one of them. The Key Rune was actually a surprise. It fits in this deck very well. It taps for a blue or a black, but then when it becomes a creature, because you can pay 1 blue and 1 black, it can become a 2/2 black and blue horror artifact creature that can't be blocked. So it can be used for ninjutsu. The Cluestone sacrifices to draw a card, but also adds blue and black. And then Letter of Acceptance taps that mana of any color, but you can again sacrifice it to add or to draw a card. So that's the limited amount of ramp I could come up with on a budget that could be provided for this deck. Next, we'll go over the creatures. I have 2 sections here. I've got the ninjas and the non-ninjas, and I'm going to go over the ninjas first. Remember, I've been opening Kamigawa Neon Dynasty boxes to get my hands on some of the rare ninjas. Unfortunately, I didn't really come across too many, so this is what I had. I start off with, and if you've seen my ninja deck that I made for another customer that was 60 card, you saw the theme to this was to make things unblockable as often as I could. So we start off with a Changeling Outcast. I thought it was pretty cool that it was a Changeling, so it could actually count as a ninja. So we got that. Then we'll go over, I'm not going to read every single one of these off. If you want to stop the video or pause it for a little bit and read what each one does, you can do so. I'll stop on the ones that I feel need to be stopped on. So Nezumi Prowler, Inkrise Infiltrator, Dokuchi, I don't like saying it that way, Dokuchai Silencer, I'll go with that. And not every single one of these is going to have the ninjutsu ability, but most of them will. So that's where Satoru comes in. He'll give ninjutsu. Throat Seeker gives all your ninjas that are attacking lifelink if they're unblocked. Venomous Changeling, again another Changeling, so it counts as a ninja and has Death Touch. Azra, Smoke Shaper, Mukatai, Ambusher. Grave Shifter, another Changeling. This one at least can get you one back from your graveyard to your hand. Okiba Gang Shinobi. Ninja of the New Moon. Dokuchai, Shadow Walker. A Moon Circuit Hacker. Each one of these, not each one of them, a lot of these ones with ninjutsu have some crazy weird abilities that will come into play as you need them. So remember, with ninjutsu, if you need me to actually read it out to you, you can return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand and put this card into play tapped and attacking. That ability will come into play when I show you the non-ninjas. Imperious Thief, this one's, let's see, I created search token, just a little bit of ramp. Covert Technician. Mistwalker, another Changeling. Phantom Ninja, it's an unblockable ninja, just like the Changeling Outcast. Moonblade Shinobi. This one will actually help you create little 1/1 flyers as needed for blockers or for attackers that can be unblocked because it's flying. Ninja of the Deep Hours. So this one, when it hits a player, it lets you draw a card. So pretty cool. Futurist Operative is the one that I was going to have to explain. So this one's a little different. So 4 to cast for a 3/4. He is, as long as he is tapped, he is a 1/1 human citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 that can't be blocked. So when you go to attack with him, you tap him, and then he's unblockable. Okay? The point of the ability of the paying 3 to untap him is before damage is dealt, once you get to that phase in combat, you pay the 3 to untap him, he'll deal 3 damage if you haven't put him back to your hand with the ability of ninjutsu. Moon Snare Specialist. This guy will come in, his ability will actually make a difference when I show you one of the non-ninjas. His ability to enter the battlefield and return a creature to its owner's hand. You'll most likely be using him in conjunction with a couple of other ones I have in here that are non-ninjas that do something similar to get some big beats in, and I'll show you that in a little bit. The Jar Kinseeker, another Changeling. Silver Fur Master, or what I like to consider Master Splinter. He is the Lord for the deck. He gives your ninjas and rogues +1/+1. There aren't any rogues as far as I'm aware in here. Other than that, he also makes your ninjutsu abilities cost 1 less, so that makes Satoru's ability 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 of any. And then Ingenious Infiltrator is the last ninja, 4 to cast for 2/3, and then when you hit somebody, you get to draw a card. So those are the ninjas. I'm going to show you the non-ninjas and explain how they're going to work with the deck, okay? So I'm going to start off with a Storm Sculptor and a Keymaster Rogue. Both of them are unblockable, and when they both enter the battlefield, you return a creature you control to their owner's hand. I understand that's a negative, but in this deck, it's also a positive, and I'll show you how in a little bit. Benthic Infiltrator, also unblockable. Remember, I needed some unblockable stuff in here so you can get your guys through. So you can ninjutsu them into play. Nurok Invisimancer, unblockable itself and can make something else unblockable. Always useful in this deck. Aetherling has an ability that can make it unblockable. That's why he's in here. He's also big. He's a 4/5, but he's nowhere near as big as the next two. Sepulchral Primordial. So it's a 5/4 with Intimidate. So he's a little harder to block. That's always a benefit, especially in a deck that likes unblockable stuff. And then when he enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may put up the 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Here's where it gets interesting. This is in your hand. You get a 1/1 unblockable through, or maybe even a 3/2. And then you ninjutsu this guy into play. And what that does is it creates the ability to have him unblocked. He hits your opponent. And then, I'm sorry, he enters the battlefield. Sorry, he enters the battlefield, and then you get a creature from each player's or each opponent's graveyard. The next one, though, I have to explain. For the first time I get to actually use this card, I've had one of these probably since the Dark. I opened one in a pack. I've also opened or gotten a couple in collections I bought. Don't worry about his casting cost. You're not going to worry about that. He is a 10/10 Trampler. He has disadvantages, and back in the day, 10/10 Tramplers for, what was that, 9? For some reason, since this was printed, they've kind of taken away the disadvantages for big beaters. This one has one where when he comes into play, he comes into play tapped. To untap him during your upkeep, or I'm sorry, during your untap phase, you must sacrifice 2 islands. And then during To attack with him, you need to sacrifice 2 islands. We're going to skip all that, and I'll show you why. So with the Ninjutsu ability, this comes into play tapped and attacking. It gets around all the negative abilities, and it's just going to be a 10-10 trampling beater. The reason for the guys that return cards to their hand is so you can get this Leviathan back into your hand, or the Primordial back into your hand, so you can get them back into play again to get their abilities to go off, or to avoid the negative effects of having to sacrifice islands. So these two are great, but they definitely work better. I'm sorry, they're not that great because they're so high casting costs, but they're much better in a Ninjutsu deck. So those are the creatures I've chosen. That's how you're going to run this deck. It's returning these guys back to your hand with one of the ninjas, and then obviously the Storm Sculptors, and that's how you're going to repeat that process. And my feeling is that this deck will be played with somebody that is a father and son, so it might be a lot of one-on-one scenarios, so that will help out. All right, next up we're going to hit spells. We're going to do utility. First section I'm going to go over is counter magic. I like Annul as a start because it's one to cast, and it actually counters 2 different things. And these are all going to be hard counters. I've decided not to use in Commander decks soft counters, which are the ones that you have to have somebody pay an amount of mana to counter the spell. So I'm going to go with all hard counters. I'm going to try to... I attempted to keep this under 3 mana, trying to keep it as low cost as possible so you can use ninjutsu abilities. So I learned recently that this is a shining star in decks, especially on a budget, because it actually hits 2 things and very important things. So Annul, negate for a non-creature spell, essence scatter for a creature spell, usually that's going to be used on commanders, same thing with remove soul. Disdainful stroke will get anything that's converted mana cost 4 or greater, so a lot of game finishers are more than 4 mana. Nullify is another dual use, it hits a creature or an aura instead of a artifact or enchantment, now it's just a creature or an aura. No escape, it hits a creature or a planeswalker, and then it exiles it, and then you get to scry 1, so all good stuff there. Dissipate, exiles a spell after it counters it. Oh, we're going to go into some card draw real quick. I did not separate the piles out correctly. All right, then we're going to go into the card draw, which is Chart a Course, because you're going to be attacking with this deck, so the negative part of this card should not take effect. I'm sorry, that. Then Phyrexian Espionage. I tried to follow a theme here with using the colors. This is one of the few times I'll be able to use it, put this card in one of my decks, so I had to use it. So it has a kicker of a black and a white, or I'm sorry, a black and a colorless, and it costs 1 blue and 2 of any. It lets you draw 2 cards, and if you kicked it, you can, each opponent discards a card. It's actually in there just because all the cards in here that I've chosen draw 2 cards for 3. I like the extra abilities that add on top of that, so, and it fit the colors. Of One Mind, it's another draw 3, I'm sorry, pay 3, draw 2, however, it can cost 2 less if you control a human and a non-human, and there is a wide range of humans and non-humans in this deck. Council of the Sword Tommy was actually put in here just because it fits the theme of Kamigawa, but it also does 3 mana, draw 2 cards just like the rest of them, and then a Divination. So that's the card draw. Again, we're on a budget. It's not the best card draw in the game. This deck is meant to be, over time, upgraded. So I won't be doing an upgrade section for this deck at the moment because most
it
of
helps
decks
the
that I
deck
put together
achieve
for
one of its main goals,
don't get them. I just talk to them about it. If you want one, let me know. I'll make it. All right. Up next for the utility, we're going to do spot removal. All non-spot removal or wrath effects that clear boards are expensive monetarily. More expensive than the deck itself. So I have to do spot removal. So I went with Ulcerate first. Now, I want to give you a statistic. I did the research on this. This can kill over 900 different creatures in the game. Out of all the creatures, it's about 1/3 of them, roughly. So for 1 black, you can kill, without any modifications on those creatures, up to 1/3 of the creatures in the game. You lose 3 life, but hey, it's an instant for 1 black. Tribute to Urborg, so it's a 2 to cast, has a kicker of 2, being both black and blue. Another target creature gets -2/-2, and then if it was kicked, it gets an additional -1/-1 until the turn for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard, and you're going to have a bunch of them in there. So it, again, is another cheap to cast removal spell that can kill at least, on this one it was like 400 or 500 of the creatures without modification and without it being kicked. If it's kicked, we go up in the numbers. Feed the Swarm, because black and blue don't have really much removal for enchantments other than counter magic, so obviously this had to go. Murderous Compulsion, most likely you're going to have a tapped creature you can kill with it. Lethal Sting, another one where it just destroys a creature. I've noticed that the just kill a creature cards are either monetarily expensive or they're more than 3 mana. So the good thing about this is that with the Ninjutsu ability, that -1/-1 counter that you put on a creature, you may be able to negate by returning it to your hand. Asphyxiate destroys an untapped creature. It, pretty simply put, it just kills a creature, specifically ones that are summoning sick because you most likely can't tap them. Grim Bounty destroys a creature or a planeswalker. That's important for 4, and then you can create a treasure token, so it gives you a little bit of ramp. Assassin's Ink, it costs 1 less to cast if you control an artifact, and an additional 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment. There's only 1 enchantment here. I'm going to show you that in a minute. So you may be able to get this down to 2 mana. And the reason why that is because that 1 enchantment, when you do get to it, will be able to come back over and over. I'll show you that in a second. And it destroys a creature or planeswalker. And not really removal so much as just combat tricks. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. So if you're being swarmed by somebody, Aetherize gets rid of them. And the last 2 cards are the last parts of... I'm sorry, 3 cards. I got 3 cards here. What I was just talking about, Smoke Shroud. So it's an aura. It enchants a creature and it gives it +1/+1 in flying. And then when this ninja, when a ninja enters the battlefield under your control, you may return it from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. So again, it can keep coming back if the creature that, when you're ninjutsuing things, this will fall off and go to the grave. So at least when a ninja comes into play, you can add it to that one. So good synergy there. Giant's Amulet, because I like to put a little bit of commander protection in each deck. Usually I use Mask of Avacyn, but I had a couple of Giant's Amulets, so if I have a blue deck, I'll be using them until I run out, which will be soon. Again, if you have any extras you want to send me so I can make more decks, that please. But anyway, it's a 1-to-cast artifact equipment, and then when it enters the battlefield, you may, pay an additional 4. And if you do, you create a 4/4 giant wizard creature token and attach the Giant's Amulet to it. That's not the important part of it, but it's nice to have an extra 4/4. If you're not wanting to do that, you can just cast it for the 1, and it's an equipment that gives the creature +0/+1, and then hexproof as long as it's untapped. Satoru is the reason why this is in here. You're not really attacking with Satoru, you're really using it for the ninjutsu ability, or the ability to give it, and obviously for the card draw. And you can equip it for 2. So good protection there. And then the last card is Mystical Teachings. So we all know that tutoring is expensive monetarily. This is the cheapest one I could find for the deck. Mystical Teachings is 4. It's an instant. Search your library for an instant card, or a card with flash, which doesn't apply here. I don't have anything here with flash. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle, and then you can flash it back, so you can go get a second one. So you can go get card draw, you can go get counter magic, you can go get something that's an answer, something to kill a creature, a spot removal. Good, actually good card. So that's the deck in a nutshell. It's actually pretty good. It's more basic than a lot of decks. It's just Ninja Tribal. It's good for somebody just starting out. Again, that's what with the person who bought this, actually, that was what they were doing. They bought it for their son because they got a box of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and their son was putting the ninjas aside. He's giving it to him as a gift, most likely for Christmas. So congrats to his son. I think you're going to enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. Please do me the favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this out to somebody looking to make a budget version of Satoru Umezawa. And that is my time for the week. I'm not going to take any more. Have a good one.